So I leave him. I make an appointment with a breast surgeon. I see her. She's, very nice. She does an exam. She's like, I want to do a sonogram and see an ultrasound. I keep using this interchangeably. I'm not sure if there's a difference. She says, I want to make sure what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing match. So she does that. And then she tells me, oh, by the way, dumbest gown I've ever had. They have all these dumb gowns. You got the paper ones that rip and they don't cover much. And, you got the ones that they give you that are too small, that don't close. Another point. This one was like a cape. This one was a cape. This one came around just on top of my shoulders and buttoned. My husband was there, and of course he was laughing. I'm like, what is this? And, help me button it. He's like, it's like you're super. And I'm like, no, it was dumb. I don't know why they give us anything. They just like keep our shoulders covered. Like, makes no sense. Anyway, and I just pictured my dad in it because he was going through all of this, and it was like pink with flowers, and I was like, it'd be great if I had a photo of him wearing one of these stupid gowns. You gotta know my dad for this to be funny, but it is, trust me. So anyway, she's like, why don't you have a seat? Well, that's never good. Usually they tell you your feet are dangling off the exam table, and they just tell you what they're going to tell you, and then you're like, okay, and they're like, get dressed and we'll see you. No, she's like, why don't you have a seat? So I sit next to my husband, and she says, I'm very concerned about what I see. And I was like, okay. And I was like, papilloma. I'm not giving up on this papilloma thing. Fortunately, they're all different people, so nobody's ready to punch me yet, but I'm like, papilloma, maybe, you never know. And she was like, I don't think so, no, I don't usually feel a papilloma. And I was like, okay, but I did read you could feel them. It is possible. Some of them can be big. So then I said, okay, well, what do you think it is? And she put her hand on my shoulder to like brace me before telling me. And I'm like, well, nothing good comes when somebody does that. Nobody's like, nothing, it's totally fine. Like, I think it's just fatty tissue. I wanted him to say, I even tried like age, right? It's just age. Some stuff happens, it gets weird, because that seems to be the reason for everything, right? Like, as you get older, blah, 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 right? Or fatty tissue. That's always a safe answer. And you're like, okay, well, that tracks. Like, it's fine. No, she put her arm on me and she said, I think it's invasive cancer. This is where I melt down because the delivery was dramatic. Let's be honest. I know they mean well, but it's dramatic. And I had her and the nurse behind her with like the whelpy puppy dog eyes, like they're telling me I'm dying. They just looked at me. They were just like, and I'm just like, so then I start crying, and she starts telling me about stuff, and she said she wants to do a biopsy right away, which, by the way, when I made the appointment, I said, did they do the biopsy, MRI, and all that stuff in the same appointment? No, it's just a consult. We don't do that in the same appointment. So I found that odd. I also don't like the way doctors always ask you, like, she's like, I'd like to do a biopsy, if you're okay with, if you want to do that right now, and I'm like, well, nobody wants to do a biopsy ever. Like, why? I don't know why they ask it like that. It's always so loaded. Like, do you want to do it? No. But I will, because I want answers. And I'll be honest, the thing I was most scared of is, a numbing needle in my boob, because it just seems like delicate skin, and I've never had a needle in my boob, so I don't know what that would feel like. I mean, I guess the anticipation of that. But anyway, so I'm crying, and she hugs me, also a bad sign. And I've just met this lady and she's hugging me, so then I'm like, I must be dying. Why is the surgeon hugging me? And again, she's lovely, she meant well. I do really like her. Then I'm like, okay, this is serious. It's not the papilloma. I gotta let it go, because she's pretty certain as to what it is. She also tells me how large it is and says that it is 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters. Now, I had already done centimeter math with the gynecologist because she thought it was 5 centimeters. And no, Just for those wondering, it did not grow. We're talking like a couple of days between each other. They just measured differently. What they felt or saw or whatever, they measured differently. But of course, I don't know centimeters. I'm like, got my phone, centimeters to inches, and that's almost that's like 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches. So I felt like a horrible boob owner, you know? I was like, what kind of steward am I of these breasts, you know? Like, well, like sleeping on the job. You know, you hear all these women, they're like, oh, I felt something in the shower. Like, I swear, I bathe. I soap them up. I felt nothing. I do quick and dirty type breast exams because to me, it all feels lumpy and bumpy, and honestly, I don't do it near enough. So I was like, I'm the worst breast donor ever. So I felt really guilty about that because I'm thinking, okay, worst case scenario, I have cancer. You know, I'm sitting here with these other cancer patients, and it's gonna be like, what are you in for? You know, what do you got? How big was your tumor? I don't know what they talk about, but maybe they like size each other up. Get it? And I'd be sitting there going, you know, mine was 8 centimeters, and they're gonna be like, what have you been doing with your life? Like, why would you let it get that big? So I asked her, and she said there was no way I would have felt it. She said this was not a marble or rock or whatever type texture. Now, I still don't know why, but she said it was not like just a circle. It was kind of, I guess, elongated, and I don't want to say she said softer, but it kind of has to be because she said it covered a large area. It was kind of, I guess, diffuse, and she said unless I was trained, I would have never felt it. She said it would have felt like normal breast tissue to me, which it did. You know, after they said there was something there, I was like, okay, I kind of can tell. Maybe, you know. So I felt much better because she was like, no, you did what you're supposed to do. As soon as you had a symptom and you didn't notice you know, I wouldn't have noticed the mass, that I came right away. And so I felt a lot better about that because I was like, this is all my fault, you know, if I didn't catch it and it's been going that long. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So, yeah, so it's large, and that part makes it a bigger deal, right? The size, the bigger it is, the more tissue it's covering, the more possibility it's spread to other things, like your chest wall or your lymph nodes, obviously, or other places. So it's that's obviously concerning. Anyway, so she did the biopsy. You know, she numbs me up, and it didn't hurt that bad. I did jump on one of them because I was like, bah, leg burn. They cut you, they slice it, which, by the way, she numbed me, and then she immediately was like, scalpel, blah, blah, and I'm like, whoa. Don't we need to wait for it to, like, numb up? And she's like, no, this stuff's instantaneous. And I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? Like, how do we don't know. I just, like, gotta trust her. So she was right. It was instantaneous, and I didn't feel a thing. I could see her, like, digging through in the ultrasound. And she's like, you're gonna hear a loud noise, and it like does like, and it grabs a chunk of the tumor, and I don't know what else, but I don't need anything in there, so she was welcome to take whatever. It's not in use. So anyway, she did 2 biopsies, which I guess is 3 each, so she took 6 samples. She even asked the nurse, she was like, let me see. She like looked in the jar. I was like, can you tell something from just looking at it? She says, I can tell a lot of things, but right now I'm just looking to see if they sink, because then she knows she got actual tumor meat, I guess. I don't know. And not just like fatty tissue, because that would float. So that was very interesting. Again, I'm crying. I'm kind of a mess. Like, I'm not crying during the biopsy, but I mean, then I'm crying. My husband's hugging me. I mean, he was just amazing. But I think the biggest thing was, all papilloma jokes aside, I thought even worst case scenario, if it was cancer, it was non-invasive. Like, it wasn't invasive yet. Because to me, this just started happening. And also, what are the odds that my dad would have breast cancer, which is already a rare occurrence, and then I would get it right after him? Like, he got it at the end of May. This is nearish the end of June. Yeah, near the end of June. So a month after my dad, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. So bizarre. Like, it's just like, you can't write this stuff, you know? So anyway, so she's comforting me, she's telling me this stuff, and then she says, I want you to meet your nurse navigator, Judy. She'll be your nurse. Now, mind you, she just took a biopsy. Technically, you cannot diagnose somebody with cancer until you have done the pathology, So she has her ideas. And yes, granted, she does this all the time, and she is probably a pro and can recognize stuff. I understand that. But in my mind, there's a small chance you're wrong. And, it's a big deal for me. So I would be very happy if you were wrong. This place that I picked, they're in Annapolis, and they've got great reviews, and they're doing all the cutting edge stuff that Hopkins is doing, but they're more convenient to me. And I figured, worst case scenario, this is going to be a lot of appointments and a lot of follow-up appointments, and it's just going to be, it's going to need to be more convenient. Because there is the breast center for Hopkins, there is a DC location, but it'd still be like an hour without any traffic, and there's never not traffic. But I figured if I had a bad feeling, I'd go there. Well, anyway, this place has a nurse navigator that you are assigned if you have breast cancer, and they help schedule your appointments, and they advocate for you, and they answer all your questions at any time of night, all this other stuff. So this is what their website says. So she says, I'm going to introduce you to who would be your nurse navigator, Judy. And I'm like, I don't want to meet Judy. I mean, I actually told her, I don't want to meet Judy. I don't need Judy. Like, we don't know yet. So, like, let's hold off on Judy. And she was like, I'd like you to meet Judy. I'm like, what? Is Judy magical? Is Judy going to come back with the results that say I don't have cancer? Like, don't bring in Judy. Anyway, dang it, if Judy didn't come in that door, hi, I'm Judy. I'm like, oh, yeah, Judy, I don't want to meet you. I don't want to know you because it's going to be negative, Anyway, in comes Judy. Judy looks just like the fairy godmother from Cinderella. So dang it if she wasn't just adorable and very huggable. I mean, she just looked really huggable. She had like this cute little, again, my whole world was I was like trying to process the information I got, but in my mind she had like gray or blonde bob hair. I'll see her again, so I'll confirm, but like gray or blonde, like bob hair, and she was round and just grandma squishy, She was smiling, had all these pins, and she's like, hi, I'm Judy, and it's okay, it's gonna be okay, and we're gonna get through this, I'm gonna be with you every step of the way. And again, I'm like, I have not been diagnosed, but I understand y'all are sure, I'm not sure, and I'd like to hold out. I didn't say any of that to her, but I did tell the doctor that, and she was talking about seeing me again. I was like, I hope to never see you again. I've told several doctors that. Like, I'm like, you're lovely. I like you. Great doctor. I hope to only run into you in the grocery store. Be like, remember that time that I had that scare and I thought something might have been cancer? I know. Remember? No such luck. I'm going to be seeing these ladies a lot. I also found out that Judy doesn't really mean you can call her anytime, because her business card only had office numbers on it. So she means call me anytime between 9 and 5, because Judy's got a family. Now, she said if this comes back and it's negative, that you don't, and it says you don't have, they're not cancerous, she said, then, I'm going to have you come in and do more biopsies. She essentially was saying, it is cancer, I just didn't grab the right bit. If it doesn't come back, she was like, we're going to run more tests. She's really smart, and I am very lucky to have found her, because I think she knows what she's talking about. I wish she didn't at that moment, but I am glad that she's very knowledgeable and she knows what she's talking about. So, anyway, do the mammogram. Note about mammograms, though, they need to come up with some like wax paper or some kind of oil, because they're lopping your, like just like pop your boob on there or whatever, and they're like, they help you get on there, and then they're like, okay, now you can step back, and it's like peeling your thighs off of leather seats in the summer. You're like you can't just drag it. You're like trying to pull your boob off the thing, and it's a bit awkward, but the whole thing's awkward. But I'm just saying, like some wax paper or some like oil, something, just an idea for mammographers who might be listening. I don't know.